members of public that would like to address the committee on any items on the consent calendar? Should now
I
speak.
see no requests.
Okay, give us a couple more seconds. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and let's go take a vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez?
Yes.
Chairperson Lee?
Yes, as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so after that, now we're moving to item number 4 on the agenda, which is a report from the Registrar of Voters relating to implementation of ranked choice voting for all elected county offices. And for here to present item, I believe, is Shannon Boucher and Matt from the Registrar of Voters.
Hi, Supervisor Lee and Supervisor Chavez. Yes, Matt Morales and Shannon Boucher here today. So basically, at a prior FDOC meeting, we were asked, administration was asked to report back on what an implementation timeline would look like, the feasibility of ranked choice voting, and projected costs. So we did some research regarding the timeline and projected costs, while at the same time, the county researched the feasibility. And I do understand that the county does not have the legal authority to move forward to ranked choice voting as a county. But with that said, we still, the ROV, provided our research of what it would take for if the Board of Supervisors decided to move forward with it in the future and potentially, advocate for a change in state law that would allow the county to implement that ranked choice voting. So I am prepared to give you a very brief summary because or we could just go straight to opening it up for questions, however you'd prefer. I can't hear you.
You're on mute, Supervisor Lee.
I hate it when it happens. Like I said, if I get $1 for every time that happens, I'll be pretty wealthy by now. All right. Yeah. Sorry about that, Shannon. Yes, absolutely. Would you please go ahead and give it the report since you're ready for it? We could hear that right now. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Go on with the brief summary. So it's regarding basically in the timeline for implementation. And again, we were looking at it more from, a technological and administrative standpoint. We believe it would be possible to implement the ranked choice voting in about 1.5 years before the election, 1.5 years after the board action that would approve ranked choice voting. And we think that would be sufficient time for a successful implementation. And this would include, obtaining the ranked choice voting software that we need to purchase, developing new procedures, working with our, community members and our CBOs, our community organizations, developing a voter and education plan, and, informing our voters, Santa Clara County voters, of the change of when that change is going to happen and which offices it affects and how these county offices will be elected in the future. As far as voter education and outreach, we, of course, do recommend a comprehensive public information campaign that would begin, well in advance of the election. That would include developing educational materials for the public, for voters, for candidates to use and provide a candidate training. We would work with our community partners that we have worked with before when we implemented Voters' Choice Act in 2020. So we have a long list of community-based organizations and members that we could work with. We would also do an extensive media, campaign and outreach, TV and radios and billboards, print ads, and do those in multiple languages. And also social media, and develop toolkits that we can give to our outreach partners who can share with their clientele. So we would begin sharing this before the primary election, because we want to maybe include something in our primary county voter information guides that will explain why they're not seeing the county race on their ballot, and that they have moved to the November election. And then obviously before the November election, we'd be doing extensive education, because that's when the voters, are focused on the November election coming up where we would really get the word out there. And then as far as estimated costs, so please, again, these are, just want to stress, these are estimated costs on current staffing, pay, et cetera, that we're looking at about a one-time cost of about $600,000 with ongoing costs estimated at about 1.4 million each year. And the majority of those costs really relate to that outreach campaign, the labor and the additional costs for paper and printing. As you can imagine, like everything in the world right now costing more, the price of paper and everything really has also increased. So that's kind of just the highlights on the three areas that we were researching and wanted to give you an idea of what that would look like. There's more information in the detailed report. So do you have any questions for Matt or I, or we're ready for those?
Okay, very good. Thank you much, Shannon. Matt, do you have anything else to add?
No, Shannon covered it well, but we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, very good. Let's see. Supervisor Chavez, would you like to open up the public hearing first before we ask questions?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And Supervisor Lee, maybe I could just offer a recommendation.
Okay.
I'm very interested in hearing from the public. I have questions for Shannon. I also have questions for council. And part of what I was hoping we could do was hear the item today and then continue the item to the 15th of December so that we would be able to get any of those final questions answered before we took an action to bring it to the full board.
Okay, very good. We'll do that. All right. How many hands were for the public? Like to speak on this item, please.
There are 3 hands up at this time.
Okay, very good. And we'll give them each 3 minutes.
3?
Yes, 3. Yeah, I think some
Okay.
of the 3 minutes each. Yeah.
Just a moment to adjust the time. And our first speaker is Sean Dugar. I've opened your microphone. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you. Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Sean Dugar. I'm the Consulting Executive Director for the California Ranked Choice Voting Coalition. We are so excited that you all are taking this moment today to consider implementing an initiative that was passed in 1998 by the voters of Santa Clara County. I have been a ranked choice voter for over a decade. I have run public education campaigns, including the most recent one in New York City, where they successfully used ranked choice voting for the first time. And I've seen the impact ranked choice voting can have on our local elections. We know that ranked choice voting promotes equity, it improves civility, and it enhances our democracy. Communities around the country have been adopting ranked choice voting and using it in the US since the 1850s. Just last Tuesday, voters in Seattle, overwhelmingly by 75%, passed a measure advising their council that they would like to use ranked choice voting in local elections. We are seeing across the country the trend leaning towards voters wanting to have more of a say in their local elections and in their democracy. We know that ranked choice voting removes barriers for running for office and leads to increases in candidates from underrepresented communities, including women, people of color, and LGBT candidates. We are ready and willing to help the county with community education and outreach. As you all know, there is a broad base of supporters here in Santa Clara County that support implementation of ranked choice voting, including local elected officials, the Santa Clara County Democratic Party, the Mercury Editorial Board. And then lastly, regarding the staff report, we know there are some concerns raised there. We have been able to confer with election attorneys that are focused on state law here in California and believe there is a path forward for the county. We are willing and ready to serve as a bridge and a liaison with those attorneys so that we can ensure that you all have the most up-to-date legal information and we can figure out a path forward. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Steve Chesson. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much. My name is Steve Chesson. I'm a member of the Santa Clara County Citizens Advisory Commission on Elections, also known as CASE, and we were the group that brought this item to FGOC back in January. In its transmittal to FGOC, CASE said that it supported ranked choice voting for county elections for many reasons, but I just want to highlight 2 of them. First, turnout in a primary election is typically half that of a general election and also tends to be older and whiter than the electorate in a general election. That the primaries will now be held in March in presidential years and June in gubernatorial years creates the potential for voter confusion as to when a primary is held, and thus the potential for even lower voter turnout in a primary as compared to the following November election. By eliminating the primary and always electing county officers in a November election, ranked choice voting means that county officers will be elected when voter turnout is greater and the electorate more reflective of the demographics of Santa Clara County as a whole. Secondly, candidates who compete in a runoff must engage in a second round of fundraising, increasing the cost of campaigning. By electing officers in a single ranked choice voting election, the need to fundraise a second time is eliminated, thus potentially reducing the cost of campaigning. This could allow more candidates to compete for county offices and thus provide voters with more choices. Frankly, I was surprised when I saw that the staff report said that the county did not have the authority to enact ranked choice voting. I was present when Measure F was drafted and placed on the ballot back in 1998. And we all thought that California Constitution, Article 11, Section 3A, gave the county that authority. County Council at the time wrote in her impartial analysis that there could be procedural issues that would need to be considered at the time ranked choice voting becomes a feasible option. But no question was raised at that time as to whether or not the county had the authority to implement ranked choice voting. So I urge FGOC to ask staff to work with ranked choice voting legal experts to see how ranked choice voting can be implemented in Santa Clara County elections. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Eleanor Yick. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Eleanor Yick, and I'm here today representing the Leagues of Women Voters of Santa Clara County, which supports changing county elections to use ranked choice voting. In 2005, the 5 leagues in Santa Clara County adopted a position in support of ranked choice voting. The League of Women Voters of California also supports voting systems, which, and I'll share with you a couple of those characteristics, those voting systems which encourage those with minority opinions to participate, including underrepresented communities, maximizes effective votes and minimizes wasted votes, promotes sincere voting over strategic voting, and results that are verifiable and auditable. We also realize that a successful implementation of ranked choice voting will require a significant program to educate the voters on that system. An important part of the League's mission is voter education, and the Leagues of Women Voters of Santa Clara County pride themselves on the role they play in voter education. Should the county adopt the use of ranked choice voting, we would be more than happy to participate in that effort. And we also would like to encourage the county to adopt ranked choice voting. Thank you.
And our next speaker is, I believe, Jaria. Apologies for the pronunciation. Please accept the unmute.
Hello, good afternoon, Supervisors Chavez and Lee. My name is Jariah, and I'm here before you today as the Communications Director for the Silicon Valley Young Democrats. SURD unanimously endorsed ranked choice voting to be implemented in Santa Clara County. RCV brings stability back to elections and minimizes all of the horrific attacks candidates face. This is critical to engage our young voters. Our generation is severely disillusioned with government. Young people are the ones to most directly experience all of the issues that our community faces. We have the highest cost of living with the lowest amount of income. We can't afford to live where we grew up. Climate change is an existential threat to our generation's lives on this planet. Mass shootings and gun violence are daily occurrences. Young people face these issues and stress daily. We need candidates who inspire hope and motivate people to vote. Young people are pushed further away from voting and civic engagement when they only hear how horrible both candidates are. Our generation is the future of our democracy, and we need to combat the disillusionment by having a more civil election system. Ranked choice voting is a system that we need. Thank you so much.
And that concludes our request to speak.
Thank you, Jess. Let's see, let me go to Supervisor Chavez and for comments and questions.
Thank you. And thank you both for the homework and research, and appreciate all the work you've been doing over the last, 90 days. That you're still sitting up is impressive to me, both of you. I want to go back to just sort of a basic question about the how of ranked choice voting and the education process. And I'm curious if you've had an opportunity to look at other locations or other places in the country that have made this change, and how the education process was defined in an area as diverse as ours, right? Multiple languages, and people who are both new citizens and citizens who were born here, and just to get your thoughts on that, the experience of other locations.
Matt, did you want to speak to that first?
Sure. Yeah. So we've done some outreach to other jurisdictions where they've implemented it to speak with them about their experiences in terms of what worked well and what didn't, and so that informed a lot of our recommendations in the report. Additionally, we talked with some other community organizers and as well as people in community-based organizations and nonprofits who did some work. So there were a lot of good takeaways. I think one of the most important things is really one of the most important takeaways we had is really making sure that our messaging is developed from the ground up to address the very diverse different communities, and really taking into account the fact that different messages are going to resonate better in different communities. And so the more that we can get the community's direct involvement in giving us feedback and in helping us get input into the education campaign and helping shape those messages is going to give us the best results in terms of engaging the broadest spectrum of our community. And so from that model, we really want to use the partnership-based approach that we used to such great effect with the Voters' Choice Act, looping in our voter education and outreach coalition to work with those community members that we have those established relationships with, who can help us, say this is the best angle to take, or this is the best messaging, these are the best events to go to, or organizations to work with to reach specific sections of the community, so we can tailor that specifically.
And is there again a community that has done this that we've said, wow, they really did it right?
There's been a lot of good examples. I think most recently one of the speakers who we also had an opportunity to talk with they had done a very extensive and successful implementation in New York, and so we've looked into how they did that. More locally, San Francisco has done a good job, and so we've met with them and reviewed how they've implemented it, and we got some good feedback that they were doing a good job as far as their messaging on their website and around the results, and releasing the results in a timely fashion. So we would be, using that as a model as well.
One other question, I don't know the answer to this, and I'd be really curious about it. Do we see an improvement in things like less spoiled ballots, more voter engagement? I know that you all have always been interested in getting to 100%, everybody who has the right to vote voting. Do we see an increase in, and have you seen any studies that you would recommend the board read or review before the board takes action on this, really relative to voter engagement?
I don't have any of the studies out directly in front of me, but we could certainly follow up and provide those to the board for reference.
Yeah, I think that would be really important to note, because I think that there are many reasons that this could be a good step for the county. But one that would be really important to me is I want to make sure that we don't diminish voter engagement by something that they find overwhelming and confusing. That would be one way of thinking about it. And the other is there an opportunity that maybe we don't see right now that this could enhance voter engagement in part because of the tool itself. I don't know if it has an impact. And now that a number of cities and different places have been doing it for some period of time, I don't know if anybody's done that kind of research or studies, but I'd be interested in knowing the answer to that. Supervisor Lee, I would like to move my questions to council, and really, again, my interest is giving them an opportunity to do a little more research before our meeting in December. If that's comfortable for you, I could ask those questions now, or wait if you want to ask your questions, and then we can both talk about the legal issues.
Oh, no, sure. Go ahead. Go ask your questions.
Great. On the analysis, I am very interested in understanding if, in fact, we sought outside counsel to get insight onto this issue.
Well, we provided our analysis based on our internal research and review. So we did not consult outside counsel on this.
Okay, that one request I would have is that I think there would be value in two steps. I think being able to speak to the counsel for the advocates organization, mostly again just to understand their perspective, Mr. Mitra, before this comes back to us. But second, I would like to encourage county council to reach out to external counsel, and again, just to get a perspective, a fresh set of eyes on this, on the side of with expertise in election law. And I do want to just say to you, Mr. Mitra, that this is not a reflection at all on the quality of the work. I think we have the finest public law firm in the country. I really do. But I do, in this instance, want to make sure that we're getting a high level of expertise, because either direction we take, we could take no direction, or we could move forward, or seek a legislative remedy. But any of those will require us to have a very deep understanding of what path, if the board decided to move forward, would be the most clear and clean on this matter. So that would be my request, that there be a meeting prior to us discussing this in December with the council of the recommended by the advocates who've been working on this. But second, that we seek outside counsel ourselves to review the underpinnings of the perspective that are presented in this staff report from council.
Okay.
Thank you, Otto.
Thank you. Actually, I think Supervisor Chavez, you have asked many of the questions I was going to ask. So thank you so much for that. And I want to say, first of all, thank you, Shannon, for the good work this year. I'm surprised you are still awake to be here, to be talking to us today about this issue while the ballots is getting completely counted and verified and whatnot. So thank you for all the great work in your team for the amazing work that's happened. This ranked choice voting is certainly something that's been around for a long time. As Mr. Chesson has mentioned, this was passed back in the county over a decade or so ago. So at the time, it was a technological issue, right? That couldn't be done. But right now, it looks like the technological and administrative issues, those sides are things that is possible. And there's some questions now. It's really a legal issue at this point that is different. So we're asking for our county council to come back and work with some of the attorneys outside to, let's see if we could get that resolved, whether this is something that can or cannot be done. So we'll come back and look forward to coming back in December. And I would say, Mr. Mitra, let's try to see if shoot for December, but if that meeting cannot happen by then, please let us know and we could try to get it back in January, okay?
Sounds good. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to keep this moving, certainly. Right, thank you so much. Any further questions and comments, Supervisor Chavez?
Only that the one point I would like to make for the December meeting is that first, I hope those deadlines can be met. But second is that I think we should think a little bit about doing enough outreach of ourselves for that meeting to make sure that there's a lot of public attention to this. I think the MERC helped quite a lot with that today, but we may want to think about that ourselves with our own newsletters and with our colleagues' newsletters as well. Just because I think it's such a big choice.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and that's all I have. Thank you very much. And let's take a vote.
Yes, I will move to continue the item to December 15th with the direction given from the committee.
I'll second it, and let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez?
Yes,
Chairperson Lee?
Aye.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on, before I move to the next item, I was just informed by our staff that the following announcement was not captured in our live stream earlier. So I would like to make sure that the public was aware of our agenda, that we have deferred item number 6 relating to the public defender's audit to the December FGOC meeting, and added items number 8 and 11 and 12 to the consent. And actually, Supervisor, I missed adding my comments to item 11 on the issue of recommendation 1.5.
You know what, I did too, because I'd love to be able to add my items to consent. We were moving a little quickly for us.
Yes, we were moving way too fast.
Thank you.
Right. So for item number 11 on recommendation 1.5, I would like to request for the administration to report back to FGOC next February with a detailed breakdown of each of the 5 milestones and how these milestones were specifically identified. But as far as recommendations 3.2 and 4.1 are concerned, I'm hoping that the county can recruit a new compliance manager within the OCCM sooner rather than later. And I would like to request for administration to report back to FGOC with updates in February 23 concerning updates to the board contract spot audit plan compliance manager recruitment. And first of all, thanks again on and to hear back in February. And your items, Supervisor Chavez, please.
Yes, I wanted to just say, you know, sometimes when we put items on consent, I know the staff thinks, oh my gosh, we spent all this time writing. First, I want to say all the items that went on consent had really good reports, and those included like the cash balance report. So just really clear, and so no questions necessary on that. On the procurement, I just wanted to really acknowledge Gene and his staff for taking the audit recommendations very seriously and moving so quickly to resolve them. We, as a board, invest a lot of resources in these audits because we want improved performance. And so I just wanted to, I don't even know if Gene's still here, but if I could ask through Dr. Smith, through your office, to just thank Gene and his staff, and really just, you know, I think we ought to just acknowledge when folks are working hard to resolve issues.
I will tell him about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then on item 12, this was the corporate sponsorship and marketing. This item had an annual review of our sponsorship and marketing and advertising program. And I just want to thank the staff for not enforcing the $2,000 payment with canteen vending. The pandemic's been really hard, and especially for catering businesses. So thank them for just being flexible and supportive. On item 18, this was a report on county parking lots. And I know that I just wanted to acknowledge that the Julian Street lot will be made available for people participating in the turkey trot. And that just gave us an opportunity to say, everyone sign up. If you haven't, you can do it you can even do it virtually, but it's such a great community event. I hope you all do. And then I'd like to request on that item, an off-agenda report on requests that were not able to be accommodated. And I was thinking about the request by Hunger at Home to use Burger Lot. If I might be confusing that, or others that may have been taken up. And I'd also like to request that the Space Committee and the administration post the process by which community-based organizations should and can request the use of county parking lots and spaces on the county's website, and I think maybe on the county exec's website. The board offices frequently receive these requests, and it'd be better for us not to do them one-off. And so if that could be included as direction without reconsideration, I would appreciate it, staff. Thank you.
Yeah, all this could be accommodated, correct?
Correct.
Great. Okay. All right. So now that we finished with item number 4, moving on to item number 5, which is receiving the management audit of the community health services from the Management Audit Division and provide directions regarding to its recommendations. And to present this, I believe we have Cheryl Solop and her team. Cheryl, are you here?
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Chairperson Lee and Vice Chairperson Chavez. I have with me today the project manager for this report, Mara Vibey, who will provide you with a brief presentation.
Yes, we can see the slide now, but I cannot hear you, Mara. I think you might be muted. Yeah, we still cannot hear you. Sorry.
Just confirming that I can also not hear Mara.
Okay. Right. Correct.
Well, let's see.
Do we want to move on to another item while she gets her equipment?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, why don't we do that? And let's skip item number 5. We could item number 6 has been deferred, and item number 7 is the next item on the agenda, which is the quarterly report from the Office of Sheriff relating to gender responsive work in the custody setting. And for here to present, I believe we have Laura McCabe, Lieutenant Rita Rowland, and Under Sheriff Binder.
Good afternoon. This is Assistant Chair David Sepulveda. I'm here to introduce our team. So good afternoon, Chairperson Lee and Vice Chairperson Chavez. Always a pleasure to see you both. Today with me, we have Lieutenant Rita Rowland, the Administrative Lieutenant of the Women's Facility, and we have Laura McCabe, our Program Manager too, who worked very hard on this project. So with that, I will turn it over to Lieutenant Rowland.
Good afternoon, Chair Lee and Vice Chair Chavez. We will be providing an update on our gender responsive work. In the spring of 2021, the Office of the Sheriff contracted with the Moss Group to perform a gender needs assessment of the Elmwood Women's Facility. The Moss Group made 119 recommendations which were presented last spring. We are very pleased with the progress that we have made. Today, we discuss our efforts that have been made in 4 key areas: the living space, programming and art, release, and wellness. A clean living environment has a positive impact on mental health and behavior. This concept is addressed in the Moss Group's proposal and research. The living quarters featured worn floors with little remaining color, and the walls of the separate rooms were covered with graffiti. As seen in these photographs of housing unit W4B, the individual rooms and living pods are quite dim due to the dominance of gray cement floors and aged paint. Through a partnership with the Facilities and Fleet Department, all the units will be cleaned and painted. The photograph is from one of our housing units, W4A, after the painting was completed. As you can see, the bright reflective paint on the walls and floor makes the individual cells brighter. The freshness of the unit created a space that projects a more peaceful and uplifting environment. Overall, the living environment feels warm and welcoming, a space for healing. Facilities and Fleet is developing a schedule for painting the remaining housing units, visiting, and other use areas of the jail to better maintain these spaces in the future. The Office of the Sheriff is very proud of the programming opportunities we provide. Recently, the programming unit offered women the opportunity to learn the welding trade. In the up right-hand corner is a piece of welded art, a helicopter, that was made by women who participated in the program. The artwork, along with another art piece created by the women, will proudly be displayed in the garden in front of the Elmwood Women's Facility. We have also brought in materials and supplies for women to participate in other creative art projects. In the lower right-hand corner, you can see some of the artwork that was created shortly before Halloween. People living in the housing units were eager and anxious to show off their artistic creations and display them with a sense of pride. We have requested that Facilities and Fleet paint a wall in each housing unit with chalkboard paint, creating an easel that can be decorated with chalk. This will allow women to express themselves through art and inspirational writings. Recommendations by the Moss Group indicated the need to expand programming and art opportunities. The women have been encouraged to participate in the process of the design and location of the chalked walls. The need to provide more support for those who are released from our jail has long been a topic of discussion. Information about the services provided by the Reentry Resource Center has been posted to the inmate tablet. Beyond the Resource Center, women are also provided with supplies to support their immediate needs. The clothing that they arrive in may no longer be suitable for them as they are released. Thanks to behavioral health services and the organization Building Peaceful Families, women who need new clothing to change are provided with the needed items upon release. Women are also released with the hygiene kit pictured on the left that contains supplies needed to support good hygiene and grooming. We're grateful for the partnerships affording our women leaving the jail facility vital tools needed for a clean and fresh start. We're very happy about several recent changes that will have a positive impact on the mental and wellness of women in our care. Members of the gardening crew have been approved to bring a potted plant into their personal space in the housing units. This will allow them the opportunity to nurture a plant and the satisfaction to watch it grow. Overall, this should have a positive impact on their wellness. We are also happy to have 4 multi-support deputies assigned to the Elmwood Women's Facility. Thank you for supporting this item last spring. These deputies are working with custody and custody health services to support the mental health needs of the women in our care. In the coming months, the Office of the Sheriff will be working with the Moss Group on a number of projects to support its gender-responsive work. First, the grievance unit will undertake an intensive study of women's grievances. The study will examine women's grievances and determine why women grieve at a much higher rate than men. The goal will be to identify underlying issues that impact women in our custody and develop solutions to better support their needs. Second, the training unit will work with the Moss Group to examine its gender-responsive training and identify areas of improvement. The goal will be to train staff to be better able to serve the diverse needs of women in our custody. Last, the Office of the Sheriff will begin a strategic plan. The process of strategic planning requires self-reflection and evaluation as an organization. It should include developing both a new mission and vision statement, as well as developing objectives and plan for how to achieve them. It is a time and staff-intensive project. We will know more about the timeline once the project is underway. The Sheriff's Office look forward to our continued efforts in addressing the needs specific to our women. We're now available for questions.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Rowland, for your recommendation or your presentation. Is anybody else would like to speak? Assistant Sheriff, do you have any comments on this?
Thank you. Just thank you for giving us the ability to share with you our progress. We know that there's quite a bit of items on the list that was created by the Moss Group, and well, it might seem slow. We are working diligently to work through those items. And so we're going to continue to push forward every day to start checking those boxes off to get things done. So we just want to let you know we are working on that every day.
Okay, good.
I think we just need to hold on for a
Good,
moment.
thank you.
You went
Okay.
away for a minute,
Oops.
Otto.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We missed what you said right after the report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, it says Zoom quit unexpectedly. Sorry. A little technical difficulty we're dealing with here. All right.
We're having difficulties in our office as well.
Yeah, the little gremlins are out today. Perhaps if somebody from Supervisor Lee's office is on the line, they could text him. He might want to get off and get on again.
I see Michelle Osorio in attendees. I see Wendy Ho in attendees.
Ah, here we go. He's doing it. He was ahead of us.
There we go.
Ah, there you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
You're on in two places, but I think we're going to be okay with that.
Ah,
There we go.
Okay, good, good. Well, I'm back, so I just used a different computer, and there we go. That's why we always have, like I tell people, I'm a believer of belts and suspenders, and that's why I keep sure everything. All right, thank you. All right, well, first of all, thank you very much for the information, and let's see, do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on this item?
I do see one hand up.
Okay, good. Go ahead and give 3 minutes, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Our apologies. We're having trouble on our end. Camille, I need you to co-host me so that I can open up her microphone. We're getting people booted in and out of this meeting also.
Ah,
And there we go. I have permissions. We'll get the timer back up. Our first speaker is Nancy. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please go ahead.
Oh, hello. Thank you, Supervisors Lee and Chavez. My name is Nancy Bermeau. I'm a member of the Commission on the Status of Women, but today I'm here speaking on my own behalf and not that of the Commission. As a side note, however, the CSW Justice and Advocacy Ad Hoc Committee was interviewed by the Moss Group, and we are, in general, very interested in seeing that the recommendations by this committee are implemented. You know, while we heard the report today, and we appreciate all the efforts that have occurred so far, they're really too little and too slow in coming. A potted plant, while nice, is not really a meaningful substitute for the well-being and mental health services that are needed. There are so many recommendations in the Moss Group report, and we're really I'm disappointed to see that we haven't made more progress at this point. Everything from prohibiting the placement of pregnant, postpartum, or recent termination of pregnancy females into discipline housing has not been addressed. Expediting the grievance process, increasing visitation, creating a committee to evaluate commissary items and hygiene kits. There's so much great information and great recommendations, and we need to get this process moving. I'll be short and leave it at that, but tell you that I'm very interested in following this and seeing some of these major improvements occurring. Thank you so much.
And that concludes our requests. You're muted, sir.
Let's try that again. Sorry. So let's go ahead and close the public hearing. And Supervisor Chavez, I see your hands up. Go ahead for your comments and questions, please.
Yes, thank you. I do want to say thank you to the staff for your work on this. And what I am really interested in is better understanding the process by which this work is getting done internally. And I really appreciated hearing about, just a recognition that it does feel like this is kind of slow going. And I wondered if you could talk just a little bit about the why of that from your perspective.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the question, Supervisor Chavez. Realistically, we have a lot of competing factors, as you know, with construction, regarding consent decree for ADA compliance and other things, as well as the other consent decree items that we're working with. So some of these items do cross over, and what we're trying to do is look at how we can do two things at once. So if we're meeting compliance with the associated consent decree items, such as mental health care, then that kind of crosses over to this bridge as well, and we can meet those. So, but again, those things, as you know, they're not things that are happening overnight, simply because there's a lot that goes into whether how we do this, whether it requires hiring staff, and it's multidisciplinary. It's not just obviously the sheriff's office. We have custody health, we have FAF and others involved in all of these projects, because it's something that takes full collaboration. So it's a lot of it's the planning, the hiring, the scheduling, and so while it seems slow, it's not that we're not working on it. It's that these items take time, especially through procurement and whatnot. So that's kind of the overarching reason. We do have a lot going on, and we are working diligently. I know Lieutenant Roland and Laura McCabe here work regularly on these items and these groups, and even just coordinating, working with the MOS group and the grievance unit to get the grievances analyzed. That takes time, because they have to put together a work plan and determine how many staff they're going to allocate and things like that. So we're just working through it, but just kind of give you a brief overview of why that takes so long.
Lieutenant Dixon, one of the questions that I've been really puzzling over, and maybe this is for you or Laura, as you're doing this work, and as Undersheriff or
Assistant.
Acting Sheriff?
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Acting Sheriff?
Yeah, I'm going to call you all sheriffs today.
Or Assistant Sheriff Spota.
Thank you. I'm wondering about this crossover, right? You've got all these different activities going on, and how does this body of work fit into the other bodies of work that you just discussed, and how is it being, sort of integrated into all of that other work?
Well, I do all that. I work on all those projects. I do the jail reform work, I do the consent decree work, I do this project, so I'm involved in all of that, and so I'm involved in coordinating all of those efforts.
Well, then, Laura, my question is, then what are the tools that you see that are necessary to expedite this body of work? And let me just be direct about why. recognizing that there are lots of challenges, we have been really focused on a number of different areas where we're really trying to support women, have less repeat offenses, all of that body of work. And what I'm having a hard time understanding is that, is this being pushed, or does it feel like it's getting somewhat less attention, in part because the female population is smaller, or is there some other reason that we haven't been able to just get it moving? And even, by the way, getting the consultant took a while. You know, what's your take on that?
Well, at this point, I don't think it, I think we have a lot of items that are in place. I think we had it seemed like we had a slow start, but we do have a lot of other things that we're working on that are related to this, that are building blocks. And I think you'll start to see this work move a little more exponentially as we move forward. I mean, I think as the quarterly reports move on, you'll see more and more work getting done. For example, the grievance work, part of that is all dependent on the Moss group working with the grievance unit to complete this process of identifying why the females grieve more, if there are trends within those grievances that we should be following. Those require more focus groups. They're going to be doing an in-depth study, and that will help build on this work.
You know what might be beneficial, just as I'm listening to you, is that's not evident from the report. And so perhaps if Supervisor Lee, what I'll do is I'll take responsibility for sitting down with the staff and diving into something that would be more helpful in terms of reporting out next. And I think that is to make sure that there's details about the process, just the way you described it, Laura, in the presentation, because I appreciate the point very much that you're raising about the underpinnings of what needs to happen in order for step Y and step Z to occur. I think that's really good feedback. But that's not reflected enough here for me to say, oh, I get it. The exponentiality of this is going to occur in quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, quarter 5 of the project, or, are there 5th quarters? Anyway, 4 quarters and then next year. And it's such and again, to be just direct, I don't remember the first time we brought forward the gender responsive referral. It could have been in 2019 or 18 even. So that's a little bit of why I'm curious about it. But you raise an excellent point, and for the next report, I'd like the strategic plan to be presented in a way that the foundation's understood, and then what we're expecting, it's going to get us scaled up. And then second, I will, Supervisor Lee, I'll take responsibility for meeting with the team prior to our next meeting midway, so that we're better able to, I'm better able to understand what's being presented, and then if there are concerns or thoughts, it'll be easier for me to weigh in on them in the public session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, certainly. First of all, thank you for the report and the very helpful graphics to see some of the progress that will be made or is being made. Certainly, a paint is very helpful, and getting a nice flooring is done is good. But at the same time, I am quite concerned looking at the gender responsive matrix that on the column that says updates, most of those are still blank right now. So I think it'll be good to be able to put those data in there, what good work you're doing, right? And sometimes you don't tell us what you're doing. We don't know whether you're doing it. And so I certainly agree with Supervisor Chavez that, for us to move this discussion forward, I don't want to go caught up with these individual items, but let us know what would you say at this point are your biggest bottleneck, right, in terms of addressing more of these recommendations right now? Is it manpower issues, not enough people to do the work? Is it a funding issue or resources? And can you share what you might think are the biggest problems you have?
Certainly, Supervisor Lee, thank you for the question. Yes, it's really all the above. So as you know, we have limited resources working on quite a few things. Even just the last couple of weeks, we've had the federal monitors here. We're expecting them again in a couple of weeks. And so it's much of the same teams that are working on this project are working on all of those projects as well. Consent decrees, construction, population control, everything that we're doing that we report on a regular basis, it's pretty much the same teams, custody teams that are working on these projects. So that's where our bottleneck is. We have a lot of work on our plates, not to say that we can't do it or we shouldn't do it. We're well aware that everything that we have in front of us is highly important. And we are putting our best foot forward to get those things done. And you know, where we recognize we need resources, we will ask for those resources in the coming months. But we also recognize, as I mentioned before, it's difficult when we're having trouble onboarding folks as well. But you know, I think where we need most of our resources for projects like this is probably at the non-badge positions that that we need in the facilities to help us with these projects. So those are some of the things we'll be asking for. I think we lost you for a second.
Chairperson Lee, do you have audio? Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, yes.
Okay.
Okay, good. No, thank you, Assistant Sheriff. As the analogy, they say, how do you eat an elephant? You eat, one small chunk at a time. And I think this is kind of like the situation we have here. There's a lot that needs to be done. And I think you really need to get into bite size, shall we say, in order to deal with it. And I think that the matrix is very helpful because they are outlined in short term, medium term, and long term, right? So I think we could break down in terms of timeline of what can be done, number one. Number two is I absolutely expected you to come back to us if you need certain resources that is lacking so that we could provide that to you in order for this to be done. As you know, this work cannot be done, but in a silo situation, right? It needs to be collaborative. So I would ask Supervisor Chavez if you would also include in your discussion with the following staffing from the probation department, reentry, and also the Office of Women's Policy and the Commission on Status of Women to propose a plan, right? That would be able to, by the next meeting, so that some progress could be made. Does that make sense?
To do what, Otto? I'm sorry, to have them.
Yeah, to have them work together to come up with the plan to move forward on solving these issues laid out on the matrix.
So, Laura, are you working with those groups already?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay, so I think Supervisor Lee, you're going in the right direction. And if I can, what I'm asking is for that body of work to be reflected in what we see next. And so when I do the midway meeting with them, why don't I ask for the representatives of all of those different organizations to be party to that pre-meeting?
Yes.
That'd be great. And then Laura, the team you're working with, just invite them to that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Lee. That's a great idea.
Great, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
And I see that's a motion, I assume, and I'll go ahead and second it. All right, and if no further comments on this, I'm ready to take a vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez?
Yes.
Chairperson Lee?
Yes, as well. Thank you. And now that item number 7 is done, we ready to go back to item number 5 for the management audit of the community health services from the management audit division.
I apologize for our technical difficulty, but we have several.
Plenty of that today, so no worries. No apologies required.
The gremlins are running wild, so we have Severin Campbell here to do the presentation. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Good afternoon, Chair Lee and Vice Chair Chavez. Severin Campbell from the Management Audit Division, and I have a brief PowerPoint here. Am I frozen?
You're fine.
Oh, okay. It looked like I was. Okay.
Okay, we can see it now. Go ahead.
Okay, good. I have a brief PowerPoint, although that I can provide to you. That's it. Well, it's a little awkward, but I'm just going to have to do it the way it's going. It's also showing. But we conducted this management audit in completed in June of 2022 in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards. And this covered the community health services, which is a budget unit within the health and hospital system. And just sort of briefly, let me do this. And sorry, it's just not letting me do the, okay, briefly. The community health services is actually two distinct functions. One are the specialty clinics, which are the HIV or the PACE clinic as it's named, the TB clinic, the infectious disease clinic, and the sexually transmitted infection clinic. So that's one function. And then completely separately is the sort of financial services function within the patient access department, which provides financial counseling and financial services to patients within the system. We had 6 findings and 17 recommendations. Our findings focused on patient referrals and access, social worker workflow, case management referrals, clinic hours, clinic websites, and then data entry delays in the AIDS Regional Information and Evaluation System, or ARIES. So with these 17 recommendations, 13 were directed to the community health services, which included both the clinic function and the patient access department function. The community health services agreed or partially agreed with 12 of the findings, but they did actually disagree with one recommendation in which we recommended that the health services work with the HIV Commission and Public Health Department to evaluate the need for TB clinic and PACE evening hours. In their written response, Community Health Services noted that they do not believe that there's currently an access issue to timely appointments within the PACE and the TB clinics. We, however, continue to recommend an evaluation of access hours. Currently, access is only provided between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. And there is some possibility that could limit access to the clinic for people who work during those hours. Of the other 4 recommendations, 3 were to the Chief Executive Officer and to Technology Services and Solutions Department, which both agreed with those recommendations. And then finally, we did have 1 recommendation to this committee to request annual reports from Community Health Services on patient access to the specialty clinics, and then their strategies to improve patient access. And that's just a very brief overview, but I'm available if you have any questions or about
Very
the
good.
report.
Thank you very much. And do we have any public who would like to speak on this item?
I do have one request.
Okay, let's do 3 minutes, please. Go ahead.
Our first speaker is Irvish. I've opened your microphone. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
To Board of Supervisors, as well as county staff, and as well as the respective clerk's office for allowing the opportunity to speak. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge the fact about that has been presented as a part of the clinical health care, and as well as the organogram that has been presented. A few things, that is to be brought when any employment resources or any resources that is required for the planning to be hired, that certainly be incurring the cost and to be budgeted out based upon what is the need for the resource that is not available, or something in terms of a cure that is something not available, or required resources to be generated in order for the cure to be done. For example, HIV, tuberculosis bacteria, some of the diseases which are still being prevalent out there, and having people out there which requires utmost need, whether that be a class of any class, whether that's a senior, whether that is a youth, or whether that is people with a special disability or any middle class person. For those, any resources that is to be budgeted out are required to be carefully be budgeted, as those resources are required to be provided a services which is required a permanent cure. And there is no permanent cure out there for such kind of a diseases. So it is to be budgeted out in a way when there is a cure available or there is a consistent cure required, such kind of a facilitation to be provided that the budget is to be aligned with the consistent services, consistent clinical care, and consistent cure that is to be provided through the medical services. Another fact, that is to be budgeted out is that those kind of clinics are constantly going to be required a service to be provided by the county, because the people who require the resources and people who are deprived of such diseases, they are in a constant need of the services. So the point of the fact is that when any kind of a human resource or any kind of a service availability or the employment and the employment that is to be required to be generated out that is to be carefully budgeted, because the consistency of that is always going to be a constant. And on contrary, when you are setting up a budget, it's also to be carefully budgeted in a way that you keep the cost of that in a buffer space. When there is a need, like COVID-19 situation is required, you can budget it out accordingly and set the incentive program in a way that you are budgeting that. Equally, you are providing an equal cost to be matched when required. Thank you very much for consideration of comments.
And that concludes our request.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Supervisor Chavez, do you have any comments or questions on this item?
I'll go after you. I know you wanted to pull this from consent.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Yeah, first, I want to thank Cheryl Soloff and the Management Audit Division for putting together this comprehensive audit. I do have some questions and comments I'd like to make concerning some of the recommendations. For recommendations 1.3, I understand that this is directed to the Health and Hospital Committee Chair. Obviously, I cannot speak for Chair Samidian, but as the Vice Chair of HHC, I agree with the recommendations suggested by the Management Audit Division. On recommendation 2.2 towards the administration, is there a need to have a medical social worker on site at VHC Lenson?
Chairperson Lee, this is Paul Lorenz.
Yes, good afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon, CEO for Valley Medical Center. So TB Lenson, and something that's important to point out is that we work very closely with the Public Health Department. Mm-hmm. They actually have public health nurses assigned to each and every patient that is cared for with TB. So in terms of support for individuals, in terms of case management, we do have that very supportive resource for our patients. So I just wanted to point that out. Most of the social worker support within the system are with the primary care system and patient for which work in caring for patients for which they work closely with the primary care provider.
Okay. Now on item number recommendation 4.1, this is the one where the administration stated this disagree with the recommendation. Could you clarify the stance of not needing to evaluate the need of TB clinic and the PACE clinic evening hours issue?
Yeah, and so first of all, look, patient access for us is extremely important, particularly for this patient population. And we will and have always adjusted our clinic hours based on patient need and demand. And we'll also work with the Public Health Department if they see that there's a particular need in the community. At this point in time, we do have that one clinic, that evening clinic, and it is for 3 hours. Currently, there's, as I'm been told, that usually it's around 10 patients. Should we actually require more access or increased access, we will adjust accordingly. So I don't know, and I'd have to read the report again, what particularly we were disagreeing with, but we absolutely agree that we have to continue to monitor access and make the appropriate adjustments.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to recommendation 4.2, is a monthly PACE clinic at the VHC Gilroy sufficient? And what is the outstanding need since administration response mentioning, quote, additional self-county presence may be desirable moving forward, unquote?
So once again, and as I mentioned, Supervisor, we will adjust according to demand or need in the community. I think the reference to that with the the anticipated increase in the South County. I think we all have appreciated the growing need in that particular area of the county. And as time goes on, we'll continue to evaluate that need and adjust accordingly.
Okay, now for recommendation 6.1, can you help provide more detail on continuing efforts to decrease the manual data entry and automating the data upload?
Supervisor, so as you well know, I mean, we truly want to, based on the report, be more efficient in terms of the management of data for a number of reasons. So we have full intentions to work with TSS to move toward to an automated process. Just last week, we were notified by the state that they're potentially changing from the ARI system to a new system. And so we're going to have to start the process all over relative to developing the interface based on the reporting specifications. So we will follow the recommendation from the auditors that we move to a more efficient process in terms of the interface and reporting.
Okay, thank you. And I would go ahead and just like to ask the administration to provide a report on the progress of implementing the recommendations for the items that are either partially agree or disagree, to come back to the FGOC meeting in 6 months on May 2023 meeting. And I think that would be good for us to see how the progress is being made. Thank you.
Yes, Supervisor.
Thank you. All right, Supervisor Chavez, do you have any questions or comments on this?
You asked my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, is there a motion to accept the report?
Would you, Supervisor Lee, do you mean to accept the report with the additions that were added?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, with the additional recommendations and this, per our discussions earlier. Thank you. Yes.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And of course, I will second that. And that's ready to take a vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez.
Yes.
Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We've dealt with 7 earlier, so we go straight to number 9, which is receive report from the Department of Environmental Health relating to Micro-Enterprise Home Kitchen Operations Program. And here to present, I believe we have our Director of County Communications, Tricia Adcock. Am I correct?
Good afternoon, Supervisor.
Good afternoon.
Lee.
Hello there.
This report is coming from the Department of Environmental Health.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Lee and Vice Chair Chavez. This is Rochelle Gaddy, Director of the Consumer Protection Division, on behalf of Dr. Sarah Cody. I also like to take the opportunity to introduce our new DEH Director. She's with us here today,
all right.
Marilyn Underwood. And we also have Jonathan Ruby, an Environmental Health Program Manager from DEH here with us today.
Great, thank you.
Hello.
All right.
So today,
go ahead, please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. So today DEH is providing our 6-month report back on the MECO program. On May 3rd, the Board of Supervisors unanimously approved the process for adopting an ordinance to implement a MECO program, a temporary pilot program for 3 years. On August 30th, 2022, we received approval for a budget request to cover the costs of developing the MECO program. DEH is an enterprise fund department, and we have no funds available to us for the research and also the implementation of the program. DEH is still currently engaged in the program development phase, and we hosted meetings with local city government officials on October 12th, and another meeting with interested community members on October 13th. We are holding additional meetings on December 7th and December 8th. At the previous meeting, DEH staff provided expected timelines for program implementation. We also described what a permitted MECO operation is authorized to do. After the meetings, we provided follow-up surveys to solicit feedback regarding the information session and also suggestions for improvement. We have also since posted the presentation slides from the meeting, so they're accessible on our MECO page on our website. And anybody who's interested in obtaining updates on the MECO program will be able to sign up for that on our DEH website. That has been up since May, actually. One thing interesting to note between May 3rd and now is the passage of SB 972. This bill actually provides additional opportunities for MECOs and other small operators to operate what we call compact mobile food operations. So these are additional opportunities for small business owners. And additionally, MECOs as well as cottage food operations under this bill will be allowed to operate as commissaries for these new categories of compact mobile food operations. So information on this new bill are being incorporated into the MECO information, FAQs, all the materials that will be posted on our website. During the meetings, we received various questions and concerns from community partners and also local agencies, and we're addressing those. Of note is the concern for timelines for implementation, both from community partners and also local agencies. So at this time, DEH is in consultation with County Council with regards to the drafting of an ordinance to authorize the permitting of MECOs in the county. DEH has also been communicating with the Controller's Office to set the necessary fees to account for the cost of operating this program. We plan on submitting the fee request as well as the ordinance to the Board of Supervisors in February. The fees will likely be similar to the permit fees that are charged for cottage food operations, the Class B operators, and also the smallest restaurants. On Tuesday of this week, November 15th, the board approved another round of permit fee relief for small businesses. And so when that is implemented, the cost for permit fees for MECOs will be covered under that. So the fees will be paid for by the funds that will be provided to DEH to cover the permit fees. Following the adoption of the ordinance, after we go to the board in February, DEH will finalize the informational and application documentation needed to effectively conduct research and additional outreach and educational sessions in multiple communities throughout the county to raise the awareness of the program. And that is what we have on the report that we have submitted to the committee.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. First of all, do we have any members of the public who would like to speak on this item?
I don't have any hands up.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Supervisor Chavez, do you have any questions on this?
First of all, Rochelle, thank you for the report, and Marilyn, welcome in your new position. Congratulations. So I just want to be very specific about the next steps, and I have felt that there's a lot of care being taken by the administration, in part, I understand, to protect against foodborne illness. Like, I know that's job one for everybody. I raise this because I want to make sure I understand that the ordinance will be coming to the board in January for us to both opt in to this program, and that will permit us to move forward with this program. Is that accurate?
We are planning on going to the board in February. The Controller's Office will need to review our documentations. I understand it takes them 30 to 60 days to review the package for the fee proposal.
So I can't remember actually when we brought this forward. I think it will be a year in February. And am I remembering that correctly, Rochelle?
It was approved on May 3rd.
I think we brought it forward the first time over a year ago. I'm making this point because what I would just say is that it took us a while to even get it to the board because there was some concern. What I want to make sure I understand, Rochelle, just to be crystal clear, that what will come forward to the board will be for us to opt into the program and the ordinance that will look at the fees. So the fees and the opt-in will happen at the same time.
Correct.
Okay. And then third, I know that the board on Tuesday discussed the small business, expanding our small business programming and waiving some new fees or some fees for folks who've already been in business. What I'm going to ask the staff, and Rochelle, I'm not sure who's working on that piece. So through Dr. Smith, I'm going to ask that in the January timeframe that this committee get a report on whether or not any of those, well, actually, maybe I should ask this. When does that report come back to us? Do you know, Supervisor Lee? I know this was your project, yours and Susan's project. We just voted on this on Tuesday, and I'm having a hard time remembering.
Right. Let me double check. I know on top of my head on the date. Let me check. Ask my staff to take a look at the dates here.
If I could ask through the chair and through Dr. Smith, if for consideration as the business resources are coming forward, Dr. Smith, if these programs could at least be in the mix for discussion with staff, so staff's able to respond to whether or not any of these new licenses would be, or new little businesses would be able to take advantage of those programs or not. And I don't have an opinion about that. I'm just really interested in making sure they will be included for discussion with staff.
Yeah, we'll be including them. I'm not sure that we can do the January timeline. I see Glenn is there. Maybe he can comment.
I'm happy to chime in. We'll be working with the Department of Environmental Health to finalize which fees would actually be included in this. It's going to be a function of the actual amount allocated and then which ones they wish to prioritize of small businesses.
So that will come back to the board when, Glenn?
I'm shooting for it to come back, and it depends again on when Rochelle and others are able to finalize those, but I would love to have it back in January, and if not in January, then certainly early in February.
Thank you. Thank you. What I would do then is to receive the report and just make sure that we're reinforcing this, that the overall program will come back no later than February for the board to act on, and that in the January, February timeframe that these new businesses will be considered for those other grants as appropriate. That would be my motion.
And I will go and second that.
And thank you to all staff. That was very helpful.
Great. Thank you. And I actually have no further question on this item. Thank you for the very comprehensive report. Thank you very much. And like I said, yeah, welcome. And Rochelle, sorry for getting your introduction off, but now we get it straightened out. And again, good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And if no further comments, please vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez?
Yes.
Chairperson Lee?
Yes, as well. Okay. All right, I think we're moving along, and let's go to the next item. Let me see. We are now done with 9. I believe item number 10 is next, which is the report from the Office of County Executive relating to our county COVID-19 pandemic response, revenue by funding source. And here to present, I believe, is Martha Wapinski?
Yes, thank you.
Hello, good
Supervisor. Hello, Deputy County Executive Martha Wapinski here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Give me a moment, please. Are you able to see that?
Yes, we can see it. Yep, perfect.
Thank you. All right, so with me today is Maria Oberg, the Assistant Controller Treasurer, who can help with questions at the end. This is a very simple and brief report. It's a follow-up to 2 items from last month's FGOC agenda that contain both the quarterly report from my office on COVID funding and also the management audit report of the COVID funds. Again, very brief question to answer 2 questions that came up from that meeting. All right. I'm actually going to skip this slide. You saw this last month, but I want to just assure that it was in the packet for the public's review. This is the first question that Supervisor Lee asked as part of the discussion at the last FGOC. You requested updated numbers for the table called Figure 1.6 of the Management Auditor's Report. Again, this was the special study of the COVID relief funds. And what you see in front of you is an updated table from the Management Auditor's Report, as of 2 weeks ago, as of November 1st. As you can see by the bottom totals, the total application was 1.2 billion and total received was 911 million. What I want to talk about here is last month, Supervisor Lee, you also requested additional information about claims. We provided this report in the packet. However, I have updated numbers for you. Since this report was published, we've made additional progress, and there's been some movement between these categories. So if you look at bullet number 2, we have now submitted 44 claims to FEMA, totaling 239.7 million. We also received under that second row there, we also received a check from the state this week for 10.28 million for one of our obligated projects. And then finally, the third row there, the current count of projects being developed is 33, and the total there would be 151 million. And so this is just late breaking information. We wanted to make sure you had that. Also at FGOC last month, Supervisor Lee requested additional information about the number and value of all the claims under development. And I just want to note for the record here, we can't provide that data in the exact format requested for all of the revenue sources because they have different funding models. They don't all use the same claiming methods as FEMA. So I just want to let you know that we did hear that request, and we will continue to report on these revenue sources and provide more specific information on claims where we can at our regular quarterly updates to FGOC on COVID funds. And with that, I'll go ahead and stop my screen share and take questions.
Thank you. First of all, are there any public who would like to ask questions on this?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on that. And Supervisor Chavez, you have any questions for Martha?
I do not.
Okay, great. I just saw your hands up there. All right.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. So first of all, Martha, thank you very much for the information, and get back to us on those requests that I made from the last meeting. And it's very responsive to our requests here and also from our staff following up with you. The table outlining in COVID revenues is exactly the kind of information that we really owe it to the public for transparency and to help all of us understand just how much is going on and how much money and services we are providing to deal with COVID since early 2020. I very much appreciate your suggestions for the future quarterly COVID reports to the FGOC to report on the number and value of the claims submitted to FEMA, as well as providing the updates on the amounts being received from other revenue sources depending on your payment methodology. I really don't have any additional questions today, but I would like to ask that the future reports back also include a column for the information on money applied for but basically get denied, right? Because when we apply for, obviously, I don't believe every penny we get in. It looks like we've gotten pretty good results, but if actually we're getting actual denial from FEMA, I certainly would like to know what those dollar amount is. Is that possible, Martha?
It is possible to report on that. I see Maria Oberg has turned on her camera. She might have some more specifics about your question.
Yes, Chairperson Lee, this is Maria Oberg, Assistant Controller, Treasurer with the Finance Agency. We can provide that as we go along. As you can imagine, there's a lot of back and forth with FEMA. Sometimes they issue what they call requests for information whenever, and they have 13 different levels of review, so we can get those at any time during that review. So far, they have not yet outright denied us anything. So far, we've been successful in appealing giving them the information they want and putting it in the context they need to understand why we're claiming what we're claiming. So this could be a delay in getting that, but when we do get an outright denial, we will make sure to report that. We hope we don't, but you never know.
We can only hope for the best, but certainly.
Right. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
Exactly. We have some visibility when that happens, right? To give ourselves better understanding of how much more are we able to get down the road. And also, actually, if now that you mentioned, in terms of question, we've always been hearing that, oh, the FEMA reimbursements are really slow and you might take years to get it. Do you think that we're actually getting it too slow, or do you think it's about where we're expecting at this point, or actually sooner than we expected?
Well, I'm slightly impatient. I would love to get my revenues quickly and hold off on payments, but no, I think we're actually at a pace that we should expect given the size of this pandemic and how it impacted every single jurisdiction in the country. I think we're actually doing quite well.
Good.
But it is slow.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. And I think that's all the question I have. And is there a motion to accept the project, accept the report, please?
So moved.
Now second it, and let's go take the vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez?
Yes.
Chairperson Lee?
Yes, as well. Thank you very much again. And the next item I have, I believe, is 13, which received a report from the Office of County Executive and Facilities and Fleet Department relating to status of Fairgrounds Master Plan process. And I believe Glenn Williams is also here along with Abe Andrade and Don Rocha. Am I correct?
Yes, you are, Chairman Lee.
Great.
Good afternoon. Happy to report back. This is a monthly report that the FGOC is required relative to the status of the county fairgrounds. If it's acceptable to you, I'd like to just briefly touch on what is significantly or new from last meeting, and then open it up to any questions that you have for myself, for Don Rocha, or for Abe Andrade.
Yes, go
ahead. The Speed City, which is the San Jose State University project that they requested funding for from the state, the county has agreed to accept the $9 million that was being offered. And we have a meeting set with San Jose State University in January to go through what they and we decide can be the next steps that we could do to move this project forward. The normal timing of events would be that this would be the meeting at which the FMC presents its budget and business plan for 2023. Because of the close timing of the FMC board meeting, which did not take place until last night, it's not possible to get it agendized. So that will be coming to you next month, and then we'll take it to the full board in January. They were able to approve and accept the audits, which were completed by MGO for 2020 and 2021, which gave them a full unmodified opinion, as good as we can get. And those are attached to your file. Parks is continuing to work with WRT, and they are working on research. The two primary ENAs, we are both still in negotiations and working on design and development and other items with no significant item to report out either on the earthquakes or on ACE. And I'm opening up to questions.
Mr. Lee, you
muted,
are
sir.
Oh, here we go again. Sorry about that. Yes, anybody in public would like to speak on this item, please raise your hands.
And there are no hands raised.
Okay, I'll go and close the public hearing. Supervisor Chavez, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to first see if there were any additions from Don Rocha, and then I'll ask the same of Abe Andrade.
No, nothing in addition to what Mr. Williams has updated.
Thank you. Abe? You're on mute too. There you go.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Mr. Lee and Supervisor Chavez. Abe Andrade, Executive Director of Santa Clara County Fairgrounds Management Corporation. I'm happy to speak today that We continue to work closely with the county and county staff and their consultant in completing a utility site assessment, which includes a review of the electrical, gas, storm drain, and sewer line connections to the public domain. And this is an ongoing project that's taking place, and I think it'll give us lots of relevant information we need to know the status and the overall state of these various utilities. It'll also give us some insight and information that we will also share with the future developers that come here to the fairgrounds as well. In addition, we continue to work closely and cooperatively with county staff utilizing the fairgrounds for the continued use of COVID-related activities. However, we have also asked the county staff at our biweekly meetings for an updated status on or if there is any exit strategy in place or coming up. And we asked for that only because we need to start, we are in the planning stage of our 2023 10-day fair, where we run into somewhat of an obstacle is that if we do not have a solid date and confirmation that the county will commence use of the fairgrounds, then we run into a problem in booking entertainment and food and commercial vendors for our 2023 fair. And that's because, that's giving them, 8 months notice of our upcoming fair, and we have to enter into a number of negotiation and contracts in order to make that happen. And again, I want to say that's in fairness to our fair partners who, if we can't follow through with our fair in 2023, they need to go out and get other jobs at other fairs as well. So just something that I wanted to bring up as something of a critical item on our part. But I just want to go also back to the report on MGO, who completed our audit for 2021, and it was an unqualified audit and no significant or any management comments for 2021. So things are looking good, and we did bring forward our budget and capital expenditure programming for 2023 at our board meeting yesterday evening, and as Glenn reported, that will be brought back to you, or that will be brought to you for review and approval in December.
Thank you. And then just to follow up, and maybe Dr. Smith, if at our meeting, our FGOC meeting on the 15th of December, if we could have an update on the utilization by the county for COVID of the fairgrounds would be great.
Sure, we'll be happy to do that.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Those answers my questions.
Thank you. And I actually don't have any further questions on that. Thank you very much. And so at this point, is there a motion to accept the report?
So moved.
Now go and second it, and please call the vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez?
Yes.
Chairperson Lee?
Yes, as well, and the report has been received. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And I believe that brings me to the bottom of the agenda today. Am I correct?
That's what I have.
Okay, good. All right, so if that's the case, we'll go ahead and propose to adjourn our meeting to the next FGOC meeting, which I believe is in December. What's the date again?
15th.
December the 15th already. Oh, sorry, Chavez, your hand's up.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so we'll go ahead and adjourn to December 15th. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Recording stopped. This meeting has been adjourned. We will now be closing this meeting. Thank you all.